Make the decision now, the decision that God has made it clear that it is of Him. Last year around this time, I had no income coming in. In July of 2022, I quit my job and I had no idea how I was going to pay my bills. I had no idea what was about to happen. God began to deal with me on the fears that was stopping me from making the decision. Once God told me what I needed to do, I began to seek Him for my reason why I couldn't do it. So a lot of times we say walk by faith and just do it. But sometimes even when you want to do it, you can't. I took the time to identify why was I rebelling, because it's rebellion. Anytime God tells you to do something and you rebel, the root cause of rebellion is unbelief. Take the time to identify what it is that you do not believe. What is causing the anxiety? What is causing you to waver? What is causing you to not believe and trust in what God said and walk out in faith in the thing that He's called you to? Now, when He told me to do what I was supposed to do, I still didn't know how things were going to go out for me, but at least I was able to identify. I had a fear of being broke. I had a fear of poverty. So the very things that I feared, God made me face them. Then I still had to be obedient and walk away from these jobs. Now, I was taught that 2 jobs is for 2 people. I had the one job and then I had took on another one because I had just graduated, and I wasn't going to keep both. I was going to work my way out of a job, and there was a couple of things that I was going to get caught up on because I had overextended my income. So that was my fault. I told God, God, you know what my bills are. You know what I have saved. I had multiple confirmations from the Lord and from people speaking, but I had tangible confirmation from the Lord. And I don't know what you're struggling to make the decision, but you have to make the decision now because it is costly. It is not only going to affect you, but those around you. Do not be focused on who you think is going to be there for you and who is not. God will put it on the hearts of people who will sow into your life whatever type of support and help that you need. I never begged. I never forced my way. I never made anybody feel bad about what I was going through because I stayed in a place of prayer and seeking God. Now, there was another part, and I'll share that later, of where I eventually did have to open my mouth because there was still some pride and things that God was dealing with. But whatever decision that God has made it clear that you need to make, nobody can do it for you. This is not a decision that goes with the majority rule. This is not a decision you make off of other people's opinion. This is a decision that you make where God has made it clear that it is time for you to walk away. It is time for you to go forward in the business, in the relationship, in the idea, whatever the case may be. And I want to add to this. I remember looking at when I was going through all of this, none of it made sense. And I remember going and looking in an old journal, and in July of 2021, I had prayed and asked God to help me because I was doing better in my finances, but I was still struggling. This is a person that you're talking about that had already filed bankruptcy twice. And I'm still was struggling in my finances, and I was still eating. And I knew that my eating was tied to comfort. I knew the things that I was doing. Hear me. I said I knew. It's one thing to know. It's another, what do you do with what you know? So I was still fasting and praying and asking God because I knew that if I was mismanaging my money, if I was eating unhealthy, I was pleasure seeking, I was self-comforting, and I knew that those things were tied to rejection. And I knew that there was some fear, some procrastination. There were some things in my life, but I didn't know what the root cause of them were. So if God has told you to walk away, if God has told you to walk away, if God has made it clear you need to walk away from the job, from the business, from the relationship, let go of that old idea. Let go of the old way of doing things, because what is God saying now? You still may be trying to push an agenda, trying to get this business started when God has already showed you something else, but you think you need to finish this other thing first. I don't know what your why is. I don't know what decision that you need to make, but it has been in my spirit for days, and I had to be obedient to release this word for you to make the decision now. It is affecting you. It could be affecting your health, relationships. It could be affecting the very thing that God has told you that you think that this decision that you need to make is not directly connected. It is that this decision that you need to make is directly connected to what God has promised, what he has showed you, what he has ordained. There are prerequisites. There is a preparation. There is a trusting. There is going to a new level. You're not going to have the answer. Listen, when I tell you God stripped me of everything, but it was necessary for where I am going. Now, at the time when I was in it, I was scared. I questioned, did I make the right decision? But every time I got weak, God would always come through and strengthen me. Somebody was giving me a word. Somebody was sowing, doing work, whatever needed to take place, because I was in a place that I had to sit still and actually trust God with my life. See, it's one thing to say that God is a provider, but I want to know, if God has told you to walk away from your job and you profess that you believe he's going to provide for you, will you walk away, or will you stand there because you think that that job is your source? See, I could preach and teach and say that God is my source, but when it was time for me to walk away, he showed me what was in my heart. And what was in my heart is that the job was not a resource, it was my source. It became a God. Then, as I continued in the journey, he showed me what else was in my heart. That cash was my king and credit was my king. Every king that I had that was enthroned on my heart, that was causing me to rebel, causing me to wholeheartedly trust God, he stripped me of it. Was it painful? Yes. Was it necessary? Yes. Would I do it again? Yes. Even when people thought I was crazy, even when people thought I made the wrong decision. This is not a decision that I'm talking to you about. And I'm not telling you because you upset and frustrated at your job. Don't take this word and say walk away. This is a word. It will come from God and he will confirm it. Because God is not going to have you do something and not give you what you need. So I'm not saying walk away from a job because somebody's mistreating you. If you're in a job and somebody's mistreating you, I recommend that you take the time to identify, why is this happening? What is it in that other person that is in you that you can't see, that now God is allowing you to face the very thing that you couldn't see in yourself? Maybe you need to learn how to speak up. I don't know what it is, but if you are in a workplace and you are being mistreated, it may not be just for you to file a lawsuit. It may not be. It could, for me, because I was used to handling matters in my own strength, in my own way. So I was afraid to go to HR. I was afraid to document things. It was all fear. It was all orchestrated by the enemy. But I had to go through every step of documentation, following the chain of command, getting deliverance, because I realized the enemy wanted to silence me. If he could keep me as an angry black woman, a woman who was emotionally unstable, a woman who could not communicate effectively, he didn't have to take me out. He was already doing his job. What is it that God is saying to you? Is your decision just for you to speak up? Your decision to speak up, because your voice matters. There is power in your words and in your voice. So whatever you're going through, make the decision now. Don't wait another day. Don't wait, because Not only is this going to bring deliverance and healing to you, but it's going to bring healing and deliverance to those who are assigned to you. It's going to bring clarity. It's going to bring revelation. It's going to allow you to be promoted in the spirit. It's going to draw you closer to God, that He may get the glory out of your life. Make the decision today. Today. Do not wait. Make the decision today.